Welcome back to Small Caps, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kerry Stevenson, and I've asked Michael Hudson. He's the managing director of Southern Cross Gold. Boy, oh boy, are these guys hitting their strides left, right, and centre. They've got more news out today. I spoke to Mike in January, and we talked about some of the drilling, some of the results they were getting. The fact of the matter is that one of the things he said last time we spoke was big systems have big footprints. Well, this footprint just seems to get on bigger. It's the gift that keeps on giving. So I wanted to talk to Mike about this latest set of results and the fact that they've added yet another drill rig. So now 4 rigs on site down at their Sunday Creek project in Victoria. Could this be another Fosterville? Who knows? Time will tell. Mike Hudson, great to see you. Thanks for joining me on Small Caps today.
Good morning, Kerry.
Good morning. Sounds to me like you've been pretty busy of late. So give us the update. What's the latest news, Mike?
We announced just this morning as we're recording, just over the last few minutes, 6 more holes, a couple of key results. One, the second deepest hole in the in the project to date, a huge step out, 250 metres, a step out down, and 180 metre step out horizontally. So very deep intersection, down 700 metres, intersected visible gold with no antimony. So it's that transition. We got 0.3 meters over 249.5 grams, 295.5 grams of gold. That was within a broader intersection of 12 meters that ran 7.4 gold. So a very good hit. It literally, it educated guesswork that geology is, if I want to be harsh, but a big step out and the system's transitioning like we'd like it to be. And then another hole that was drilled almost a kilometre away from that hole, a very different test near surface, a couple of 100 metres away from any other drilling that we'd done in the main body, where we hit half a metre at 17 grams, equivalent in this case, because there was a bit of antimony in that near surface result. So it's developing along strike and down to depth.
You said when the deeper hole there was no antimony, and then you said the one near surface has antimony. For those of us that are not geos, what does that mean, the antimony or the lack of it?
Yeah, so these epizonal systems are a subclass of gold in Victoria, the ones that traditionally weren't mined. So Bendigo and Ballarat are a very different style and a different form of gold. So great for the old timers because they, as we've spoken about, they could just stamp them. There was nuggety gold and it was easy to separate. A bit more complex metallurgy for 100 plus years ago for the old timers to deal with these epizonal deposits. They're 70 million years later in how they form geologically. They form in a different part of the state. They're much further east, and a key metal that comes with the gold is antimony. In fact, antimony is the second most important metal in Victoria after gold. So it's been, during the European wars, the antimony mines were cranked up in the 1870s to produce antimony. During World War I, the only mines that really kept going, gold shut down, were the antimony mines. And today it's a key metal again. So it's been a critical metal for a long time. And these epizonal, to answer your question, the epizonal systems have antimony in probably, the top 700 meters. And as they transition to depth, the antimony drops off. And at least at Fosterville and Costerfield, which are 2 great examples of these epizonal systems, along with Sunday Creek, it becomes very high-grade gold without the antimony. And it's basically going from the brittle to the ductile. Higher pressures and temperatures at depth just change the chemistry. But what's really important economically is they can form very high-grade gold deposits. And that's the prize that we're looking for. And that's why seeing lots of visible gold down there in the same form and style that, these other epizonal systems have transformed those mines, Fosterville and Costerfield, is very important.
So is this telling you that it's the same sort of system as Fosterville then? If you're saying that the antimony is at the top, you get almost down to the source, this very high grade, narrow, but very high grade. What's it telling you, Mike? It's telling you you're on track, clearly.
Absolutely. So with my geology hat on,
Yep.
absolutely, it's an analog. Geologists like to put deposits in boxes, and there's no doubt that we have the same age and form and style as Fosterville and Costerfield. Variations in detail that geologists will argue about, but it's that later event, and it's transitioning, and it's gold antimony, and its interaction of structure and lithology in terms of how the ore bodies in the case of Fosterville and Costerfield form in our mineralization. So it's no doubt an analog. And then the prize economically, take the geologist off with the promoter hat on.
Yeah.
The big prize is that we can find another Fosterville, and that's the talkiness of this project. And absent of the fantastic results, this is another cumulative 100-gram meter intersection. So we've got 22 of those intersections in 60 plus holes that we've reported. So amazing strike rate.
Yeah.
The project's delivered already, but the icing on the cake is that change at depth.
You've added yet another drill rig. You're now up to 4. What's the strategy behind that? Is that because you just want to throw a lot at this and it's a project? What's the management around these rigs and
we bulls in a china shop drilling everywhere, or what? Is there some sort of method to the madness?
Yeah.
Absolutely. We spoke about this last time in terms of our 3 main priorities this year is 1, to make it bigger, 2, to demonstrate how it hangs together, because it's no good just making it bigger if we haven't got anything that hangs together, and 3, demonstrate how to work in Victoria. And we talked about that and how the project can progress. So making it bigger comes from a number of different things. It's making it bigger within the 1,350 meters so far that we've drilled in the main area, a long strike, to depth, increasing the ounces per vertical meter, which means increasing the number of vein hit discoveries and progressing those to depth, and also targeting the very highest grades, because some very high grades that have very strong controls. So, drilling out a smaller volume, not just always making the volume bigger and getting more gold that way, but by targeting higher grades. And we really haven't started to do that yet, but that's one aspect we'll be putting a rig to. And so that's about 75% of the drilling. We've got 30 kilometers planned, and the other 20-25% will be going out to the systems that have never been drill tested until we put a rig there a few weeks ago. So we've got an 11-kilometer long system, which is about 5.5 kilometers of old historic workings that we found through the LiDAR. Similar footprints to that main area that we're drilling. Never seen a drill hole, and so making it and showing the system has scale. Big systems have big footprints.
Systems, yeah.
And just draw one other analog. It's a nice one. Is that the historic mines at Fosterville had an 11-kilometer footprint. The historic mines at Sunday Creek have an 11-kilometer footprint. So it's a nice scale comparison to make.
Where's this 4th rig going to be situated?
That's out bush. That's 7.5 kilometres away from the other 3 rigs at the moment. So it's at a project called Tunstall that we've now put 2 holes in. We're on our 3rd hole as we speak, and that's testing 100 to 150 metres below surface. We think the old mines out there mined down to 90 metres, which was quite the exercise in the middle of nowhere, and have never been drill tested. So to drill mine down to 90 metres from the old timers, they didn't do that for no reason at all.
Yeah, exactly. So that drilling started, has it, Mike?
Yep, onto the 3rd hole.
Onto the 3rd hole, you did say that. Lots of exploration, Mike, and this could be a little bit early, but I just have to ask the question, how long do you keep drilling, and then when do you look at putting a resource around it?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question because I've spent 20 plus years on the TSX, and we have an investor in Southern Cross who's very well known in the gold space, especially in North America, called Pierre Lassandra.
Oh, we love Pierre.
And Pierre's one of the biggest gold bulls, and he established Franco-Nevada and ran Newmont, and he's made
Yeah.
many billion-dollar companies, and we're very fortunate to have him as an investor in Southern Cross. Now, he's probably best known in Australia for the Lassonde curve, which describes staying on the exploration pathway, where you get that big step up from, essentially zero, and then you start to plateau as you start to put economics around a project and stop the exploration. And then you have a valley of death as you go into production. And then only when, I've lost the chart here, only when you get into production and start going to nameplate capacity that you exceed those valuations and you become a very different stock. And there's different investors, speculators, and versus, value investors who come in through that chain. Now, the biggest gradient is always the exploration curve. So as long as we can stay on the exploration curve and invest alongside the Lassonde curve, we're going to continue to make this bigger. So if we blew our brains out drilling in the first 300 meters and drilling, 20-meter space drilling, we'd never have hit this hole at depth that we're announced today down at 800 meters with 250 grams gold. It just wouldn't have happened because it would have been the wrong focus and it would have limited people's vision. We're here to make this bigger. Not absent, because then, you've got to demonstrate how things hold together. You've got to demonstrate continuity and potential mineability of these systems wherever you are, right? And it's no use just drilling without context. So, we need to do that. And that was the second point. I'd make it bigger and show how it hangs together. So we've got to do that. And we're doing a lot of that proper work in the background in terms of, looking and understanding the controls and putting volumes around the gold mineralization, doing the met work, doing all the environmental baseline studies and everything that builds a project. But in the public domain, we're making this bigger, and that's the main focus of our bucks at the moment. So you won't see a resource until next year sometime at the earliest. We're staying on that Lassonde curve exploration value creation.
Speaking of Lassonde and going back to him, because when you said Pierre Lassandra, I actually got quite excited because he is Mr. Franco-Nevada. That's a royalty streaming business, but he's also a big investor, and you're an ASX listed company. How did the two meet and get involved, and why? Like, what's his reasoning? I guess he obviously can see some upside. I just think he's a smart dude. Lots of companies out there. Why Southern Cross, do you think?
Well, I can't speak for him, Kerry, because he's his own man. But I'd like to think he invested in Southern Cross because he can see the opportunity here that we have with the grade and scale of this system, and we're at the very early parts of that exploration curve, if you like, because we've tested a very small part of this system to date, really. So that would be the thesis, I think. That we're not there trying to create resources and put economic studies around. We're on that the early days of big discovery is why I'd say that, and really association through people I've known with 20 plus years, and it's an honour to have somebody like that on the share register.
100%. Now, I just want to go corporate for a moment before we finish up, if we could, Mike. You listed in May last year, so you're not even a year old. You're still a baby. You're not even a toddler, but you're smashing out the numbers and clearly on the right track. Talk to us about funding and how you're going to fund this next bit of exploration going forward.
Well, we got $17 million in the bank from a raise that we did in December, so we're fully funded, fully permitted, 4 rigs on the ground. We're going to deliver one way or the other. The drill rig with the truth machine will dictate the outcome here, but so far so good in terms of what we're seeing. So we don't have to go back to the market over the next year to deliver on what we're going to do. 30 kilometres of drilling will be about a $12 million budget. So we've got spare capital there to increase the drill rigs, to do other things around securing freehold, etc. So I'm remembering we own 320 acres of freehold in and around the key drill area. So yeah, on that front, we're well placed. We're looking to increase that alignment of shareholders, and management of capital structure is everything in my view. As I've learned, I used to think it was all about geology. Then I used to think it was other things around the companies, and it is all those other things. But if you don't have the right capital structure and the alignment of shareholders and people who are more buyers than sellers, and a very smart person once told me, you only want to sell a share in one of these companies once. You don't want to have to find another buyer and another buyer and another buyer. So alignment of shareholders who see the opportunity here, and we're all working to the bigger prize, which is, a very big system, and ideally, seeing those very higher grades developing it, continuing to develop it there.
Yeah, and look, the market has been a bit challenging. I said when we last spoke, Mike, I think 2023 is the year for gold. Your share price has been pretty good. In fact, going up. Last time I checked, 69 cents, where others have been under a little bit of pressure. Is that because you just it's a gift that keeps on giving? You think there's sticky shareholders?
Bit of both, and I'll take it with humility, because you're only as good as your last deal, and there is we're very fortunate that there's more buyers than sellers, simply put, and that's getting the right group of people and supporters behind the stock, and there's some very good people working behind the scenes that support this company from a shareholder and broking point of view, and they see the opportunity, and it's a great discovery so far, and we've got to continue to deliver. But if we can, it's got the foundations, and so I can't compare to anybody else, but it's that capital management that we're starting to get better at in this company, because of course when we started, we had such a turnover. I think in the first few months we turned 2.5 times our free float. So it's just getting that right alignment, articulating the story. You've got a great bunch of guys behind us who help us articulate the story, and then the people on the ground who are doing all the work. And it's a machine, right? With 4 rigs, there's a lot of core.
Yeah, that's a lot of core, and a lot of results coming up. So what are you going to be doing for? Is it just drilling for the next? Because I'm talking to you as we come into April 2023. For the rest of 2023, is it all about the drill bit?
For you and me, and talking like this, absolutely. Collecting all that baseline data, environmental data, doing the met work, bringing in our mining engineers to determine how we could start thinking about this, doing ore sorting, test work, and all those kind of things behind the scenes. We are technical people. We've come out of the mining industry. We're not going anywhere, and so we know how to operate. And you can't just drill with absent of doing the other de-risking. But in the public domain, we're on that Lassandra curve. We're going to make this bigger. That's our aim.
Final question, Mike. Some people will turn around and say Victoria is a tricky state to work in, permitting wise, and others. What's your comment about working in Victoria?
I agree.
I love it.
It's not the middle of the Western Australian desert, but we do have 3 gold mines operating here. We're producing more gold than we have for 100 years. The antimony is genuinely a critical metal, and will help politically gain that political license to continue to advance this project. We've got to make sure we're working at the very best way with the local people, and as I said last time we spoke, we're basically not upsetting them. I just came back from a few nights ago a big community meeting, and we have those bi-monthly now. We've set up a working group, so bookending it at the local level, bookending it at the national critical metals level, and then designing a project that basically is supported from both ends, and the state has little choice but to come along on the ride.
Well, exactly. And I think more importantly, making sure that the local community is not just involved, aware, and obviously at the end of the day could benefit as well. All right, Mike, we are running out of time. Let's wrap this up with, you know the drill. Excuse the pun. 3 reasons why people should be sitting up and taking notice of Southern Cross Gold with a share price, which, congratulations, since listing at, what did you list at?
20.
They listed 20 on the 16th of May last year, currently sitting at 69. By the way, this is not financial advice. Do your own research. But, Mike, 3 reasons why they should sit up and take notice right now.
You've trained me very well. I know you always ask these things now, so I'm pre-prepared. Number one, we're delivering on that scale and grade that we spoke about last time. Big systems have big footprints, and this is continuing to deliver. This news today on the 30th of March, as we speak, is delivering those very higher grades at depth and along strike, as we're talking about. And, we've got a 1.3 kilometre system in the main zone and 7.5 kilometres we're drilling today. So it's delivering on scale and grade. So we're continuing to see that, which is wonderful. And then one other thing is around the capital management, and we've spoken at length about that. So you can have the best grade and scale and system holds together, but unless you get that capital management right, so that's really important, and we're working very hard to improve there. And then I think momentum is really important in exploration. People get sick and tired of things that stick around, and as one drill rig and money's turned off, and a drill rig comes back, and people lose faith in a system if you really don't have that momentum. So what's momentum? That means permitting, number one. We're fully permitted. We own the freehold land, so we've got access. We're only dealing with 3 landholders across that 10 or 11 kilometre trend. So we're fully permitted. We've got the bucks we've talked about, so we can execute, and the rig's on the ground, and then we're at the whim of the truth machine. And
what's the truth machine?
The truth machine is the drill rig.
Okay. Right. Well, you've got 4 truth machines out there. I wish you all the best, Mike. I know you're heading up to Singapore for an event, so I appreciate your time before you head up there, and all the best going forward. We'll talk to you again in a couple of months' time.
Thanks so much, Kerry.